Hello and welcome to another series of videos. This time I'm going to cover the Almanac, and the Almanac is basically the background description. It describes the world of Aventuria, the people that live in, the creatures, the wildlife, the societies, science, culture, everything you would want to know, and it is the other book you're supposed to own when you play the Dark Eye. The first one is the core rules, and the second one is the Almanac. And this means when you buy an adventure or have other source books or something, they may reference the Almanac and they may assume you own it to get detailed information about a topic that will not be covered in the adventure. So they have more room for specific information of the adventure, and they can reference the Almanac for more general description or detailed description about the topic. This is going to be again a series of videos like I did it for the core rules, and I have no clue if I can manage to finish this series before the Kickstarter campaign ends. And if there is a topic about the lore of the Dark Eye that interests you and you really would like to be covered, maybe before the Kickstarter campaign ends, because you want to decide if you want to pledge or if you want to increase your pledge, then let me know. And I may talk about a later chapter earlier before I cover other chapters. The rest of this video I will go through all the chapters and basically tell you what chapters are there and what topics are covered. I'm not talking about the topics, about the content. I will just say these are the chapters and it's written about these or that topic, and then you can tell me if there is one of the topics that interests you more than others. So let's start. The first thing covered here is an overview of the continent. This is similar to the chapter in the core rule book, the first chapter I think, where they gave you a rough overview of everything, the continent and the region that are there. This is a bit more detailed. The core rule book had, I think, 2 pages for it, not even 2 pages, I think, and this is 8 pages long. There will be a more detailed description of everything. This is just to give you an overview, and later chapter will have about 60 pages or more than 60 pages and go into detail into every region. So there's also something written about traveling in Aventuria and what the climate and the weather is, and that is the first chapter. The second chapter is about the species and the people living in Aventuria. It again covers the species in the core rules, the elves, the humans, the dwarves, but also orcs, goblins, lizardmen, and so on. And it is not very long. And then comes the chapter about the people and the regions. And as I said, it is over 60 pages long. I'm not going to flip through all the pages now. I just jumped to the next chapter, which is about culture and science. It covers a range of topics. It starts with different languages used in the world of Aventuria. It has some explanations about common sayings or phrases used and vocabulary used in the Dark Eye, because the world of the Dark Eye has different names for things we know from Earth. For example, there's a moon, and the moon is not called moon, they call it Madamal. I don't know what the translation in English will be. And things like that are explained in this chapter, so you can use it when playing, and it helps you to understand the source books and the adventure books, because these expressions and phrases will be used there. So then there is it's something about how time is measured, or what the names of the months are, how you calculate years, and so on. And then, important holidays, and then something about the cosmology, about the creation of the world and how it is creation is roughly structured with its 7 spheres, what the spheres mean, what they're about, and which eons have passed. There are several eons, and each eon was basically dominated by a certain culture and so on, and this is shortly covered here to give you an idea how this works. And then there is something about stands and about how society is structured, what ranks are there for nobles, and how you would address them formally in a correct way, or how you would address a mage or a priest, and so on. And then there is something about battles and armies, how armies are structured, which important battles have been fought in the history of Aventuria, and there's something about food, what you can get in a tavern, what it costs, what are typical foods eaten in the world of Aventuria, games and sports, how you can lose your money gambling in the tavern or win something. There's something about craftsmanship and technology, how advanced is the world, what can you expect there, what technologies are not there. It's about art and music. Then there is a small library, something about literature, not so much about literature, but books you can find that will teach you certain things, or where you can learn about certain things. There's a list of diseases. There's also a list of poisons. And then it's about trade, the currencies used in the world of the Dark Eye and what they're worth, important fairs and market, which may be a reason why you travel to a certain city, and measurements, weight, length, what is used in different cultures, and what they mean for us. What is a mile what is an Aventurian mile in US miles or something like that, or in meters. So this is about history. No, this is about law and order. What are typical crimes? How are you punished when you commit a crime, and so on. Then it's about tolls and taxes when you travel the land. And there is something about wildlife. There's a short bestiary with the most important creatures you will meet in an adventure. Mostly someone who will be your opponent, like a goblin or an ogre, orcs, trolls, and typical creatures you will often meet in a Dark Eye adventure. There are some very basic ones, like for example a wolf or a bear or a boar or a rat. And then there is a list of herbs and how you can use them, with rules how to use them, and a chapter about gods and demons. It covers the 12 gods and their religions in more detail, and there is something about the nameless one, the evil god, and the 12 archdemons and other immortals. For example, the gods of other religions that don't believe in the 12 gods. Something about the dwarven gods and the orcs. And then there is a chapter about sorcery and magic. It describes different traditions in the world of the Dark Eye. For example, the traditions covered in the core rules, like the mages, the elves, and the witches, but also other ones that are not mentioned in the core rules, like druids, and so on. And then there is a list of magical artifacts, important artifacts, and also a list of ones you can find in an adventure. Again, these are pretty typical, most of them are pretty typical ones you will often come across in an adventure and you can find. Artifacts in general in the Dark Eye are rare, but there are some very typical ones. If you find one, then often in an adventure is one of these. Then there's something about magical creatures and magic in everyday life. And the next chapter is about some NPCs. Important ones or just interesting ones. Ones that will play a role in adventures that will be released. Someone who's simply important is the Emperors of the Midden Realm, or the Emperor of the Horasian Empire, the leader of the Orcs, Dwarves, important spellcasters, thieves, bandits, pirates, and so on. And then there is a chapter about mythology and history. It basically starts with the creation of the world and talks about all the eons that have passed and what has happened in them as far as it is known. And then it goes into detail about the human history. And this is covered in several pages and becomes more detailed the closer we get to the current timeline, and it covers things that have been covered in adventures and so on until we reach the current time. And this is the everything until the index, and after the index there is a hidden chapter that is only supposed to be read by the game master because it contains secrets and background information about things that are going to happen in the world of the Dark Eye, or background information about things that have been written about in the Almanac. And yeah, this is something you would want to avoid when you're a player, and it's only for the game master. Also, there is a certain place described, this tower, and the tower is the place you can see on the cover of the Dark Eye core rules. And there are other important places, mythical places described, and that is basically it. Yeah, there's also a list of NPCs you might meet, like a citizen, a bandit, a guardsman, a cultist. Yeah, and that is everything that is covered in the Almanac. So if you want to know something about, in detail about some of the topics, then comment, and I will cover this topic before I cover everything else. No matter how long this takes, I will finish this series of videos even after the Kickstarter campaign has ended. So that's it for this video. Thank you for your attention, and goodbye until the next video.